I used to be proud, maybe even arrogant. My name is Uju, and I thought I had everything figured out. I ran my household like a well-oiled machine. My husband had a good job, we had 3 beautiful children, and I liked to think of myself as the perfect wife and mother. When Amara, a distant relative from a poor village, was brought to live with us as a maid, I didn't hesitate. She was only 14, quiet and obedient. I saw her not as a child, but as help, someone to cook, clean, and take care of my children so I could focus on more important things. But I wasn't kind. No, I was harsh. I made sure Amara knew her place. When she didn't iron the clothes perfectly, I would scream at her until her eyes welled with tears. If she forgot something, like my tea, I would slap her. I thought she was lazy, slow, and ungrateful for the roof over her head and the food in her mouth. My husband rarely said anything. He thought I was just being strict. The truth is, I enjoyed the control. I enjoyed making her feel small. It wasn't something I would ever admit, even to myself. But deep down, I knew. My children watched it all, and though they didn't speak up, I wonder now what they thought of me back then. Amara stayed with us for about 4 years, growing quieter each day. She worked hard, but I never gave her a kind word, never showed her any affection. Eventually, I decided she was no longer needed. I sent her back to the village without a second thought. Years passed, and life took a turn I never saw coming. My husband lost his job after a failed business deal, and everything crumbled around us. Our savings disappeared faster than I could blink, and we had to sell the house. We moved into a much smaller place, and I found myself doing the very chores I had once forced Amara to do. My hands, once soft, were rough with scrubbing and washing. But the worst was yet to come. My youngest son, Chinedu, fell seriously ill. We took him to countless doctors, but the treatment was too expensive. We had nothing left. The friends who used to flock to our home during our wealthy days were gone. We were alone, desperate and hopeless. One evening, as I sat by Chinedu's bedside, my husband rushed into the room, breathless. "There's someone who can help us," he said. "She's willing to pay for Chinedu's treatment. She's wealthy, owns a big pharmaceutical company." I couldn't believe it. Who would help us now, after we'd lost everything? The next morning, the woman came to our home. When I opened the door, my heart stopped. It was Amara. I could barely recognize her. She stood tall, dressed in a fine suit, with an air of grace and confidence. The girl I had abused and discarded had transformed into a successful woman. My throat tightened, my hands shook, and for the first time in my life, I didn't know what to say. Amara greeted me with a calm smile, but I saw it, the recognition in her eyes. She remembered everything, but she didn't mention the past. Instead, she asked about Chinedu's health, about the treatment, and assured us she would cover all the costs. My husband, oblivious to the history between us, thanked her profusely. I stood there, frozen, unable to speak. I wanted to say something, to apologize, but no words came. How do you apologize for years of cruelty? Amara stayed with us through Chinedu's treatment, checking in regularly. She never brought up the way I had treated her, but her kindness felt like a mirror, showing me the ugliness of my past actions. My husband and children were grateful to her, and so was I, but my gratitude was tangled with shame. One evening, after Chinedu had recovered, I finally gathered the courage to speak to her. "Amara," I began, my voice shaky. I'm sorry. For everything I did to you. I was wrong. I don't deserve your forgiveness." She looked at me for a long moment, her eyes soft but unreadable. Then she simply said, "I learned a lot from you, Auntie Uju. You taught me how not to treat people, and for that, I thank you." Her words were kind, but they cut deep. She didn't need to forgive me, and maybe she never would. But she had already saved my family, not out of obligation, but out of the goodness in her heart. Amara left that day, and though I haven't seen her since, her impact lingers in my heart. I learned too, the hard way, that life has a way of humbling us. The very person I had treated as less than human became the one who saved my son's life. I share this story now because it changed me. It taught me that no one is beneath anyone, and that the way you treat others matters more than you know. Life has a way of flipping the script, and when it does, you'll want to be able to look people in the eye without shame. I wish I had known that earlier. Kindly subscribe, comment, activate the bell notification, and share so that others can learn too. Thank you.